Well, good morning to everyone out there in the Matrix. I hope everyone is surviving your lockdown. This video is going to be in response to, like, I guess it was directed at me on Twitter, which I call Twatter. But, anyways, the individual that included me in this was because whatever kind of nonsense that they had put um, through this Twitter was because I had put a quote by Benjamin Franklin, which is, quote, those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety, end quote, Benjamin Franklin. You can always tell when an individual has been indoctrinated for a number of decades into this communist system, this communist regime that we found the United States in over the last few decades through a few different administrations, at least a couple of administrations that drug out, like 8 years each, and brought into this socialist, communistic agenda and have actually indoctrinated and programmed an entire generation or generations of American citizens. And it's scary because the baby boomers are dying out. We're leaving this earth. I happen to have been born on the last year of the baby boomer generation. And I can tell you that the baby boomer generation had a whole different outlook and concept of socialism and communism than these younger people do now. And I understand programming and mind control, so I understand why this person would leave me and actually, I don't know all the terminology for Twatter, but it was my screen name was included in that, so I'm guessing it had to do with this quote that was given by Benjamin Franklin. And as I'm reading this person's tweet regarding me, I'm guessing, I'm listening to the news, and they are in where I live. This is a tourist area, although there are no tourists. They are forbidden, as everything else is forbidden now. However, they have uh, opened up some beaches in certain counties, not all counties. But it was interesting when I'm listening to these mainstream media puppets dictating the terms of allowing you out of lockdown, and and in order to even have access to the beach. And they keep repeating this over and over and over, their terms for the masses, the peasants. And it's very simple. You 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 have to keep moving. You can't stop moving. If you go on the beach, you can't take a chair, you can't take an umbrella. You have to keep moving. You can fish, but I'm assuming you're moving in some way. They're saying that it is for physical and mental health, which, the mental health part of it, I think is in dire need, considering how long people have been locked down, and of course the exercise in the sun and fresh air would be good. But the point of that is they, somebody, whoever they are, they're telling your peasant ass what you can and cannot do. And of course, everybody has been worked into this hysteria, this panic, this fear propagated by the mainstream media of this COVID 19. And let's face it, from the day that we were born, we had one companion that has been with us since birth, and that is death. That you can take to the bank. So you go through your whole life worrying about this and that and all of that. And I can say this person that was going to leave some kind of thing, and I'm getting to this in a minute, it's actually social contract. This person has been so programmed that they won't even, and you can tell they're only listening to the TV, the programming, and have done no research on their own whatsoever to know that you possibly could contract COVID 19 from someone. Highly unlikely unless you are immune compromised in some way. But the point I'm trying to make here, this person on Twitter said that indirectly to me that I should look up the definition of social contract. So I did. And this is where the socialist communistic programming comes in. And without looking through a lot of Google crap that pops up on the top and all that, I just looked at the first thing from a dictionary for a social contract. And it would be, you would think this would come right out of a Karl Marx book or something. But let me just read this. Social contract, it is a noun. The definition: an implicit agreement among the members of a society to cooperate for social benefits. For example, by sacrificing some individual freedom for state protection. Theories of a social contract became popular in the 16th, 17th, and 18th centuries among theorists such as Thomas Hobbes, John Locke, and Jean Jacques Rousseau as a means of explaining the origin of government and the obligation of subjects. Now, what this person was attempting to do was educate me on something. And I'm assuming that they probably have read this since they mentioned social contract. But it's interesting, this last part, as a means of explaining the origin of government and the obligations of subjects. That right there, subjects, is the key. It's a nice way of saying peasants. Alright? Do you think, if you happen to be listening to this video, do you think that you're a subject? If you think you're a subject, that means you're giving someone else power over you. And this is what is happening right now during this grand control exercise that is happening around the world. And it's just that They are they are this is a beta test to see how much control and how much force they would have to use in order to enforce their dictates on the peasants. And from what I can see, the majority, because I'm guessing the baby boomers, we are now dying out, and so these later generations, having been indoctrinated into socialism and communism, are totally programmed to believe everything that they hear through the mainstream media. And it's very scary. I won't be here for it probably, but the thing about it is, it's very sad that people will give away their liberty for a little bit of safety. And y'all face it, we're all gonna die. It's just a matter of how and when. That's it. It's very simple. As I said earlier, our constant companion from birth has been death. So, do you live your life scared of this and that and all of this nonsense? No, because what they are spewing out over the airwaves of mainstream media is fear. And when you have fear introduced into a human, they go into fight or flight mode. And what happens is the blood goes from the stomach area out to the extremities, to your arms and legs. What does that do? It affects your immunity, because when you are in fight and flight, it is about fighting off a predator or fleeing. It's not worried about fighting a virus. And there is a very prominent biologist that says this. Many of them, but one in particular that I happen to like. But the point of this is how easily people are influenced and programmed simply from what is coming through on these TVs. And I happened to notice something this morning. They were, it might have been the governor of our state or something, but I noticed something that a very few people are aware of, but it is called a flicker rate. And they had this, I believe it was our governor, and he was saying something, but it abruptly cut off and it flickered. For those of you that know what I'm talking about, you'll know what I'm talking about. That was that message that came up was implanted into the subconscious part of the mind. And the last word before they clipped it and cut it and then the screen flashed was the word fixed. I can't, and you know what? Honestly, I don't remember, because I half listen to these politicians when they're up there jabbering all their lies and all that. I caught the last word because I happened to be looking at the screen. The last word was fixed. It was cut, and the entire screen flashed. It's a flicker rate. Normally, flicker rates are done in a way where they're not so observable, but they are always enhancing this technology. And actually, I don't think they give a crap anymore. Actually, because from what I have seen going through social media and this type of thing, is that it seems that the majority of people are being willing peasants and going along with everything. No job, no income, no food. You can't do this, you can't do that. It seems to me that the majority of people, when I'm looking at all this fluff that comes through Twitter and all of that, I can't help but think that the majority of people are on board with lockdown and having your liberty and your certain amount of rights. And I use that very loosely because in reality, if any of you have ever had anything to do with government and the justice system, you know you really do not have any type of rights. It's kind of an illusion, but and you would not know that unless you ever had to deal with this type of thing. But just the mere fact that so many people have just readily given up our perceived rights and liberties for something that is not even as dangerous as the common cold or the flu, which is admitted and the numbers prove it, than the common flu and the common cold. And since the numbers, and they have to release some numbers even though they may be bogus, but they're lower than what they initially would have said. I've noticed a tactic that they are now using, and they repeat this daily, is that they use this phrase, the second wave. What they are doing is implanting this into your mind. They are programming you ahead of time. It's fear about a potential second wave. Because, see, the first one, there's a small segment of this, and I'll just stick with the United States, that is seeing through this and are understanding this is not this pandemic that they hype it up. So what are they doing now? They are coming in with another thing, which is what they're calling the second wave. So, you know what? For those of that had the many decades prior under the public school systems of socialist and communist indoctrinations, there may be no hope for those people, because programming and mind control is very powerful. But for those of us that was raised in a different time, and we actually thought for ourselves and didn't let other people think for us, maybe it's a time for us to stand up and recognize what is actually happening, even though we may be in the minority. Because if we leave it up to these younger ones that are so much under mind control, this agenda that is unfolding before our eyes, it will take hold. And I know that there are many people that are putting their faith in a certain individual or individuals. And I'm not a religious fanatic, but I will say in one of those good books, it does say something along the lines of don't put your faith in any man, but people are doing that. The good people that are wanting, they are not a part of that communistic, socialistic mindset. They are putting their faith and their hope into a certain man or even a few individuals. But if you were to look into the good book, you're not supposed to put your faith in any man because deception comes in many forms and these demons are all about deception. And I'm in no way saying that this individual that I am referring to is a demon or anything like that. I'm just merely saying you're not supposed to put your faith in a man or a woman. So, anyways, social contract, up yours. If you want to be a subject, be a subject. To me, that word subject is just like being a peasant. We're being told, I mean, we have been cut off of jobs, no money for food, no money for nothing. And as if we're subjects, just like the social contract says. I'll just end this by saying, for those of us that at least know about it, we're allowing this to happen. And I do know for sure that someone is going to say, well, why don't you have your ass out there doing something? And here's the reason. You get a few people out there, it's not going to do any good. You have to have hundreds of thousands or millions of people out on the streets saying, hell no. You get a few hundred, a few thousand, they'll take you down. I saw that with live streams during the Occupy Wall Street protest. They'll take you out. It runs into hundreds of thousands and millions, then it is the dynamic shift. Am I going to put my ass out on the line outside knowing that? No. Should millions of people take to the streets and say, we're taking our God given rights back from a few criminals that are dictating our destiny? Yeah, I would be. Even as old as dirt as I am, I would be. So some of you may go ahead and still follow this social contract. I'm going to attempt to stick with Benjamin Franklin and what he says, those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. And if you notice, he said a little temporary safety. Temporary. Because they still gonna move forward either way unless the peasants get together and just say hell no. But anyways, I was raised in a different time. I was raised in the 60s and the 70s when we had a whole different mindset with this government in general knowing what it is. So anyways, I guess that's it. I just happened to, it's interesting, these um, the the way this stuff comes together, and I happen to be reading that response on Twitter, and at the same time I'm listening to the mainstream media dictating the beaches are open, but you have to keep your ass moving. There's no stopping. There's no social contact. They specifically said that. So, in combination with those two things, it led me to make this video because the world is so just out of control, and we're letting them do it. Anyways, that's it for now. Please stay safe out there, everyone. Peace.